Hi, I'm Miss Sarah, and this is At Home Makerspace, where every week I show you how to make fun projects with things you can find at home. During the month of November, our library is hosting a virtual author celebration. Through our website and social media, we'll be posting all sorts of great content about creative writing. And here on Makerspace, I'll be showing you how to make projects to inspire your writing. This week, we will be learning how to make and use story stones. These are decorative stones that you can use to tell stories. Now, you can do this one of two ways. You can make stones that will help you retell a favorite story. Fairy tales and folk tales work really well for this. Or you can create a bunch of different designs, match them up, and see what story ideas they spark. Let me show you how to make them. The first thing you'll need to do is gather your stones. They can be light or dark, but make sure you find stones that have a smooth texture and they should have a flat top for you to decorate. Now, I gathered my stones from outside, so the first thing I'm going to do is give them a quick wash to help brush off any dirt or dust or debris that may be on the stones. Keep rinsing until all of your stones are clean, then set the stones somewhere to dry. If you're wondering where to find good stones to decorate, my stones are actually landscaping stones. If you have any stone landscaping outside of your house, I would recommend starting there, look through the stones, and see if you can find some good ones. If you can't find any around your house, they actually sell landscaping stones at home improvement stores. Next, you'll need some art supplies to decorate your story stones. I tried a bunch of different art supplies and I wanted to share my recommendations with you, but since I know a lot of you guys do rock painting, if you have a favorite supply that I did not mention or another favorite tip or trick, feel free to leave those down below in the comments. My three favorite decorating supplies are oil-based paint pens, acrylic paint and a small paintbrush, and fabric or puffy paint. Of these three art supplies, my very favorite is the oil-based paint pen. They come in all sorts of colors and different brands. These are actually Sharpie brand. So if you happen to have these around the house, I would highly recommend trying them out to make your story stones. When using oil-based paint pens, start by giving it a shake. If it's a new pen, you may need to press it into your surface a few times to get the paint to begin flowing. Once it is flowing, it's really easy to draw your design onto your stone. The reason I like these oil-based paint pens is that you get really vivid colors and it's really easy to control your lines. I feel like I have more control and can do more details with a paint pen than I can with a paintbrush. I also like that these paint pens dry really quickly. Acrylic paint also works really well. I would recommend using a fine brush with this paint because a finer brush will give you more control and you can do more detail. Like the paint pens, the colors for acrylic paint are really vivid, but if you want them to be even more vivid, you can actually paint your stone white first. This is actually called priming your stones, and you can use white acrylic paint to prime. Just make sure your paint is completely dry before you add any layers of paint on top. Finally, I like puffy paint or fabric paint because the tip is pretty narrow, meaning I feel like I have control over my lines and it's pretty easy to do details. I also like that puffy paint has a 3D effect when it dries, and it also has kind of a glossy sheen when it dries. Just remember that this thicker paint will take a little bit longer to dry. A couple of other art supplies you could try are chalk crayons and fine tip markers. Both of these worked to decorate my stones, but I had a few small issues with both of them, which I wanted to share with you. Chalk crayons feel softer than regular crayons, and they draw really easily on stone. The colors are also really vivid. When these crayons are new, they have a pretty fine tip, so it's easy to draw fine lines and details, but this will wear down over time. However, when they are new, these chalk crayons gave me the most control out of everything I tried. So what's the downside? Well, sadly, the chalk can smear a bit when you touch it. Finally, let's test out the classic fine tip marker. Now, what I like about this product is that it is probably the one you are most likely to have around the house. I do also like that this fine tip gives you control over your lines, and I did feel like it was easy to add small details. Unfortunately, I did end up having a couple of problems with these markers. Now, first, as you may be able to see, the markers like to bleed or spread. So my purple line here is a lot thicker than the black or brown lines that I've just made. If you are trying to do some very fine details, this bleeding could cause you some problems. The other thing is that the colors seem to fade as they dry. You can really see here how much lighter the purple is once it dried. Since the color fades so much as it dries, you can't really say you get vivid colors with these fine tip markers, although if you like the pastel look, they should be fine. Just remember when you're drawing that your colors will fade and your lines will bleed as your project dries. So those are art supplies that you can use to decorate your story stones. Use whichever ones you happen to have around the house, and if you have something else that works well, be sure to share that art supply down below in the comments. I did want to add that because I am only using my story stones indoors, I didn't add any kind of weather protection to my stone. However, if you think you'd like to use your stones outside, maybe for decorations, I'll be including a link with some more information about how to protect your stones from the elements. Now that you know what art supplies to use, what are you going to draw? Well, whether you're retelling an existing story or using your stones to come up with original ideas, I recommend you make stones that fit one of 4 categories. Your stones can be characters, settings, plots, or other important objects in a story. My story stones were inspired by fairy tales, and here's what I drew. Characters are people, animals, or objects. Here I have a frog, cat, and bear. Settings are places or times. Here I have a house, a forest, and nighttime. Plot concerns a challenge your character must face. Here I have 3 common fairy tale challenges: becoming royalty, falling in love, and winning a contest. Finally, round out your story stones by including other objects or events that could be important to your story. Here I've included a key, a pumpkin, and a magic mirror or magnifying glass. As far as how many story stones to make, well, that's up to you. But I would recommend having at least 2 or 3 stones from each category. And remember, even if you draw a story stone to fit one category, when you're actually telling your story, you might find it fits better in a different category. For example, even though I didn't draw any of these stones to fit my plot category, I can easily make plots about them. There could be a plot about figuring out what a key unlocks, finding a lost cat, or building a house. You can also combine your stones to create something new, like a frog prince or a magic mirror that shows your one true love. And here's my complete collection of story stones. What stories do you think these stones can tell? Once all your stones are complete, it's time to tell some stories. Now, as I said in the beginning, you can use story stones in a few different ways. You can use them to retell an existing story, or you can use them to inspire an original story. Here's how to use them to inspire original stories. I like to start by putting all of my stones in a small bag or box so I can pull them out at random. You certainly don't have to do this step, but I think it adds to the fun of the challenge. Next, you'll want to pair a few of your stones together. I recommend starting with 3 stones and seeing what ideas those 3 stones will spark. So here I have a bear, a heart, and a pumpkin. This could inspire a story that begins, "Once there was a bear who loved pumpkins." You can keep pairing stones until you come up with an idea that really inspires you. So let's try this again. I'm going to pull out a pumpkin, a key, and a frog. This could inspire a story that begins, "Once there was a frog who found a key in a pumpkin patch." Let's try it one more time. What story could start with a night sky, a trophy, and a pumpkin? Perhaps a story that begins on the night of the giant pumpkin growing competition. If you really want a storytelling challenge, see if you can tell a story using all of your story stones. On the night of the giant pumpkin growing competition, a little bear was dreaming about the perfect purple cottage he would one day build. Soon the bear met a frog who was hopping along with the biggest pumpkin the bear had ever seen. The frog asked the bear if he could help him carry the giant pumpkin. So the bear helped carry the pumpkin all the way to the competition. There they met the queen. Who had lost the key to the treasure chest where the pumpkin growing trophy was stored. She'd lost the key somewhere in the forest where the little bear lived. So the little bear offered to help look for it. He searched all around the forest, high and low, under bushes and trees, until finally he met a stray cat who was batting the shiny key between her paws. Well, the bear fell in love with the little stray cat and took her with him when he went to return the key to the queen. The queen was so happy to have the key returned that she gave the bear 3 gold coins from the treasure chest, which he used to build the house of his dreams for himself and his little cat, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. We hope you enjoyed learning how to make story stones. If you do make some stones, or if you create a story based on your stones, we'd love it if you could share it with us at the library. You can do so through our Facebook at www.facebook.com/FHCPL. Through our Instagram, our handle is at FHCPL, or you can send us an email. Our email address is makerspace@findlaylibrary.org. We hope you've enjoyed this month of creative writing inspired projects. Be sure to tune in next week for a brand new video. See you then. Bye.